Good morning, students. In the last class, we talked about institutional and non-institutional sources of credit. The one formal source of credit which we talked in detail was self-help groups, SHGs. We learned that there are around 63 lakhs SHGs operating in India, in fact more than that. Different states, different union territories, all of them they have their SHGs registered, and all this have empowered a lot of women who are associated with these SHGs. There are many SHGs. We also learned this that which have members less than five. No matter what, they have been working tirelessly to help each other. An SHG, the members of SHG, they are only supposed to borrow and lend among with each other. They cannot give the loan from their pooled money, from their saved money, whatever they have contributed to some outsider. Now let us just assess the entire rural banking system, the entire rural banking network, how far they have been able to meet the credit needs of the poor people in our country, especially the rural areas only. We learned that apart from commercial banks, we also have regional rural banks and other rural development banks, which are formulated, which have been launched because of especially providing loans to the people living in rural areas for their farm as well as non-farm needs. Let us just start. Critical appraisal would mean we have to talk in both the ways, like the positive as well as the negative side of this. That is the critical appraisal. Whenever you are asked give a quantitative critical appraisal of rural banking networks, so it means or anything of poverty alleviation programs. So wherever you find the critical appraisal, this term, you have to talk about both positive as well as negative aspects of that problem, of that particular topic, whichever is asked. Okay, so let us just start with the positive impacts. You can write it in the point form. First, rapid expansion of the banking system had a positive effect on rural farm and non-farm output, income, and employment. So this is actually just an introductory line. You can make this the point one. After the Green Revolution, credit facilities helped farmers to avail variety of loans for meeting their production needs. Basically, credit facilities expanded in rural areas only after Green Revolution, because with the onset of Green Revolution, there was much more need of credit than ever because of the expensive technology, expensive inputs which it uses. There was the need for credit jumped a lot, multiple times. With buffer stock of food grains, now India used to have the stock with itself. Famines became events of the past. Now we did not have famines. Famine, the situation where people are dying of hunger and starvation, they are dying of drinking contaminated water because they have nothing to drink and they have nothing to eat. So, in an ordinary man's language, famine, if we translate it, is akal. So like there is no food, no water to drink, then only then when people die. And famine was a regular event actually during the time of colonial rule in India. It was a regular kind of occurrence in our country. But due to this expansion of rural banking, farmers started availing credit for a variety of their needs, like buying seeds, fertilizers, or storing their crops as well. And with all this, India was able to grow its production. And earlier we had to import it from USA, we had to be at the mercy of USA, but no longer it was needed. So India also used to have its buffer stocks of grains, and famines became events of the past. But there are still many problems faced by the agricultural credit structure of the economy, and some of them are insufficiency. Again, you find this point almost everywhere. When we were doing the critical assessment of poverty alleviation programs, then also we did about this point. When we were talking about education and health, then also we talked about this point, like the whatever the amount is required to invest in education and health sectors, that is much larger than what actually we are putting into it. So this is something we have been reading in all the current challenges which are faced by Indian economy. Insufficiency, the volume of rural credit in the country is still insufficient in comparison to its demand. So there are still more borrowers, but then they are not getting the required credit. Second, inadequate coverage of institutional sources, because they have failed to cover the entire rural farmers of the country, because they still, are interested in giving loans to better off sections of the rural areas as well, better off sections of society, and not to the poor farmers, because in case of giving loans to poor farmers, there is high risk of loan default. Like as a failure of repayment, there is high risk of failure in case when the loan is given to poor farmers. So still they have been interested in giving loans to more better off farmers. Inadequate amount of sanction, the amount of loan which is sanctioned to these farmers, it is also inadequate. As a result, they often divert such loans for unproductive purposes. Because if you need like 1,000 rupees to buy some seeds, and you are getting just 100 rupees as an amount of loan from the bank, these are just hypothetical figures. You can those 100 rupees of loan cannot do you any good. So, you will not be sowing any seed, instead using those 100 rupees for anything else only. So that's what farmers have been doing. If they need thousands of rupees and they are just getting a few hundreds or maybe a few thousands, but they need many thousands. So instead of putting that loan for a productive purpose, they just divert the use of that loan to unproductive purpose. Less attention to poor or marginal farmers. We just did this, that well-to-do farmers, they're getting more attention due to better credit worthiness. Growing overdues. The problem of overdues in agricultural credit continues to be an area of concern. Like, growing overdues means we have high and higher number of people who are defaulting on loan, who are not being able to repay the loan. So it is because of the poor repaying capacity of farmers. So credit agencies, they are becoming cautious of granting loans to farmers, because ultimately they need their money back, whatever was lent to the farmers. But farmers, because of small land area and very poor price what they get for their product, they hardly get any money to repay the loan. Let alone the interest, they are not even able to pay the principal amount. So that is why there have been growing overdues over the loan amount. Loan default rates have been chronically high. It is alleged that farmers are deliberately refusing to pay back loans. There might be some cases, because when majority of the farmers are not able to pay the loan, the others who are actually able to pay, they also think that we can also refuse, that we have nothing. And then this actually destroys the entire purpose of giving loans to farmers at low interest rates. So it becomes a threat to the smooth functioning of banking system, and this needs to be controlled. So expansion and promotion of the rural banking sector has taken a backseat after reforms. Except the commercial banks, other formal institutions failed to develop a culture of deposit mobilization, that is, lending to needy borrowers and effective loan recovery. So this is important to improve the situation. You can always be asked the question in two parts, like critically appraise the rural banking network and what can be done to improve the situation in the same. So to improve the situation, what needs to be done? Banks need to change their approach from just being lenders to building up relationship banking with the borrowers. So here emotions and sentiments can actually work. They just don't have to be lenders. They have to build some relationship banking with the borrowers, that you are a reputed customer or client or whatever. And your money, The money which we are giving to you is important to be put into the productive purpose, and it is important to be repaid in future. Or there might be some other ways of building up the relationship networking with the farmers. Also, farmers should be encouraged to inculcate the habit of thrift, which is savings, and efficient utilization of financial resources. So this is also important. Like, farmers should be taught not to spend wastefully. Actually, they hardly have enough money to spend wastefully, but sometimes they put it in religious ceremonies and all, because they followed all this a lot. So sometimes they spend it unnecessarily. So there they need to be encouraged to inculcate the habit of savings and utilizing their financial resources efficiently. So this is how you have to write the notes. Just give the subheadings: insufficiency, inadequate coverage of institutional sources, then inadequate amount of sanction. You can also combine the first and third point. They are different in the sense that this is applicable for the entire amount which is required to be put into the credit network. This is the amount which is sanctioned to be given as a loan to a particular farmer. So if they are given less loan, their purpose of borrowing actually changes. So they divert that loan to some other unproductive reason. Less attention to poor or marginal farmers, because their credit worthiness is not good in the market, and growing overdues because of defaulting on loan a lot. So this is how, and then to improve the situation, what can be done? So this is actually a 6 mark kind of question from this section, rural credit. They can ask you because hardly we talked about the sources of credit in detail, except one, which is SHG. So SHG, no, note on SHG and critical appraisal of rural banking, writing the some positive effects and then negative impacts, and then what can be done to improve the situation. All this needs to be done. Okay, this is actually one again case study, Tamil Nadu Women in Agriculture, Tanva, which was a project initiated in Tamil Nadu to train women in latest agricultural techniques. So, just for information, you can read this. It induces women to actively participate in raising agricultural productivity and family income. See, again, quoting Nelson Mandela, we can say education is the biggest weapon we can use to change the world. Mm, okay. So that's how, when women are trained and they are given these latest techniques, it induces them to participate in agriculture and raise the productivity and family income. Women are forming farm women's groups which function like SHG only. So, but they are all farm women. Many other farm women's groups are creating savings in their group by functioning like mini banks through a microcredit system. And with those accumulated savings, they promote small scale household activities like mushroom cultivation, soap manufacture, can you see, doll making, or other income generating activities. So, a little training to all these women brought so much as an output. They made their groups which was under the name for farm women group. Then they all involved themselves into lending and borrowing for where like activities which required microcredit, like soap manufacturing, doll making, or any other income generating activity for that matter, which can fetch them a little income from the market. And that's how they became financially independent as well. So the food grains which, okay, this was all about rural credit, how credit is actually the backbone for rural development. Why do we really need to talk about credit in this much detail? I hope you all understand this with the reading of the rural credit network. It is really important that timely credit be available to all these farmers, because variety of their needs and all their working capital for the next season, a lot depends on the credit. Basically, what I believe is farmers need to be educated first to get into farming. It will bring a drastic change. It will bring a big, tremendous, significant change in the farming. The next topic is agricultural market system. Marketing is here is not promoting your product. This marketing is not spending on ads and everything. When we are talking about agricultural marketing, it involves every little process which starts after harvesting until the time it reaches us. The all these fruit, grains, vegetables, and fruits that we consume daily, they come from different parts of the country. Obviously, they are not grown just nearby, especially not in Delhi at all. So all these fruits and vegetables which we are consuming, also the food, grain, cereals, everything that we are consuming on a daily basis, all these staple food of ours, it goes through different places. It reaches different places before it reaches us finally. We are the final consumers. Nobody's buying from us thereafter. So the entire mechanism through which these goods reach different places depends on marketing of agricultural goods, and that is actually agricultural marketing, that entire mechanism. So now the first problem which rural people were facing was related to their credit needs. Like they need to grow food first of all, and to grow food they need a lot of working capital, and for that they need to borrow. Now they have got the loan, they were able to sow their crops, they were able to harvest it, and everything is done, and now they are left with their crops. But then what needs to be done now? Now they need to sell it. And you can't imagine the kind of hardships farmers go through when they sell their products in the market. This is entire agricultural marketing system. Before doing anything else, just let us read the definition of agricultural marketing. It is a process that involves assembling. First, after harvesting, you need to assemble your crops, entire harvest, like you need to get it together at one place. Then storage needs to be done, because if you can't sell the entire output at just one go, at just one time, then it needs to be stored. And the storage is not like you can put it anywhere in some room or anything like that. Depends from crop to crop actually. Some crops or some kind of fruits and vegetables, they really need scientific storage where temperature needs to be maintained, cold storage facilities need to be there. So they are not like small godowns kind of storage. They are big scientific storage where a required amount of temperature is set in the room so that the harvest does not destroy. Because fruits and vegetables, they're all perishable items, they will destroy with time. So again, they need loans for storage facilities also. Then processing needs to be done, further processing of that particular food, grains or fruits or vegetables. Then it needs to be transported where to the place where the final consumers are, or to other places. From there, wherever it is transported, it is packaged by the people involved in packaging. So it is providing employment to a lot of people. You see, at all the stages, we have different people employed. Then it needs to be graded. After packaging, you have packaged it and all. Now it needs to be graded. Like grading is classification. Like on a cart, push cart also, you will see the vendor grades his apples according to different categories. One apple is of 100 rupees per kg, other is of 80 rupees per kg, and sometimes one can range up to 50 rupees per kg also. So, that is a way of getting better amount for better returns for his apples. If he put all of them together and does not grade, so he will not get 100 rupees per kg for any variety of apples, because it has got both good ones and rotten ones maybe. But then when he's able to segregate it into different categories and charge a different price for it, then he's able to earn better amount. So that is why grading is important. It is important to segregate basmati rice with any other normal rice. and after that, distribution of different agricultural commodities across the country, and then it is distributed across the consumers, placed all over the country. So agricultural marketing involves every little step that starts after harvesting till the time it reaches the consumers. First assembling, then storage, and then it needs to be processed. From there, it is transported to the places where it is going to be packed and graded, and finally, it will be distributed to the consumers across the country. Agricultural marketing system is an efficient way by which the farmers can dispose their surplus produce at a fair and reasonable price. It involves different activities for movement of farm produce from the producer to the ultimate consumer, and these are all those different activities. Farm produces what? The entire harvest, the output. So it will be moved at like to different places from the producer till it reaches the ultimate consumer. Okay, so I was telling you that agricultural marketing is not an easy process. It is not easy for farmers to find a potential buyer who can buy their products, at a good, reasonable, and a fair price, basically. Farmers are exploited. You cannot imagine the hardships they go through. I'll show you one video in the next class, most probably, from where you can actually relate with the, uh, you know, you will have a, trust me, you will have a plethora of emotions when you see that video, when you're actually going to watch that video. All this we are actually just reading in books, and there's a huge difference between experiencing it firsthand and then reading it in the book and then trying to relate it with their condition. There is a huge difference between that, because it is actually so much hard for the farmers to find the right buyer. Like what we are buying for maybe 100 rupees per kg, farmers are not, sometimes they are given the returns in paise, like 60 paise per kg or 80 paise per kg. And you can't imagine the, total amount they receive for producing hundreds of quintals or thousands of quintals after 4 to 6 months of, you know, toiling on the farms and all, giving so much labor to their crops. Let us let us just read those problems. Tomorrow we are actually going to see it in a video. It is a very short video. You'll really like it to understand this problem. Manipulations by big traders. Prior to independence, farmers suffered from faulty weighing. Okay, these farmers, because they are not educated, they also suffer from faulty weighing. Their products are not weighed properly by the agents who are there in the markets. If it is 100 kgs, they are just weighing it to be 60 kgs maybe, because and farmers are not educated, so they cannot even argue. Also, even if they know that they are being weighed wrongly, they cannot argue, because there are multiple farmers we have, in that particular market, who are ready to sell their product at that particular rate also. So they suffer from faulty weighing and manipulation of accounts. They are not given the right price first, right weight first, and then their accounts are manipulated. Like, because of, again, lack of education, they don't know how much is going to be the total amount of their output at a particular price. If they have taken some interest, they have taken some loan at a particular interest rate, they don't know what is going to be the entire repayment amount. So these money lenders and all, they also exploit these farmers by manipulating their accounts. So they also, here we are talking about marketing. So while selling their produce, they manipulate their figures and all. They arrive at very less figures to pay to farmers. Lack of market information. Farmers were often forced to sell at low prices due to lack of required information on prices prevailing in markets. This you're going to see there. in the video. They are forced to sell at low prices because of because they don't have the required information about the market, about the prices prevailing in the markets, about the quantity, which is demanded by the final consumers and what they have with themselves. They really don't have all these information. There is a big number of middlemen placed between the farmers and the final consumers. So it is very easy to exploit the farmers in this case. Third, lack of storage facilities. Because I told you these storage houses, they are not any normal room. Like you cannot put your fruits and vegetables in a very normal room and expect it to last forever or maybe for a long time. It really needs some scientific storage warehouses and everything. So farmers don't have these proper storage facilities to keep back their produce for selling later at a better price. Even today, more than 10% of goods produced in farms are wasted due to lack of storage. So agricultural marketing is an important actually part of the chapter. Please try to learn all these points side by side as we do them. So can you imagine 10% of goods produced in farms is still wasted due to lack of storage facilities. And these storage facilities, they are not, easy to afford. Sometimes it is very expensive to afford the storage houses. They need a separate loan for storing facilities actually. Therefore, government intervention becomes necessary to regulate the activities of the private traders. Had it been totally with the private traders, farmers would have been, exploited like anything. Because these private traders, they have nothing but the profit motive in their mind. They do not understand the kind of labor the farmers put into to produce all these crops and everything, and they exploit them like anything. So it is important that government takes some steps to prevent farmers exploitation and intervene in this matter to come out with some ways so that it can improve the entire agricultural marketing of the crops and other fruits and vegetables. So, after independence, the government of India adopted the following measures to improve the system of agricultural marketing. These are the measures. We are going to talk about few measures, basically four measures, which were taken by the government after independence to improve the system of agricultural marketing. One of them is regulated markets. Regulated, the word comes out because these markets there will be rules and regulations to operate in this market. This will be regulated by the government. So, it becomes very hard for the private traders to exploit the farmers on the basis of quantity and prices which they give for buying their crops. So hence markets came to be known as regulated markets. Let's see this one. The first measure was regulation of markets to create orderly and transparent marketing conditions. It is really important that marketing conditions should be transparent. Like everything should be clearly visible to farmers. This is the rate at which we buy. There should be some board maybe so that it cannot be changed, altered from farmer to farmer. All the rules and regulations must be followed. There has to be a transparency between the buyer and the seller. So that is the first step taken by the government, that is creation of regulated markets. They have been organized with the view to protect the farmers from the malpractices of sellers and brokers. All these sellers and brokers, the agents, who take the commissions of buying the products from the farmers and then selling it to other middlemen, they really exploit these farmers with their malpractices, which we just talked about, that is faulty weighing, manipulation of accounts, providing them wrong prices and everything. So when government came up with this idea of making regulated markets for farmers to sell their output, this benefited both farmers as well as consumers, because consumers will also get a nice price to buy for the fruits and vegetables. However, there's still a need to develop about 27,000 rural periodic markets as well as regulated marketplaces in order to realize the full potential of rural markets. You can see this picture. Regulated market yards benefit farmers as well as consumers. This is the kind of regulated market here. Government agents sit, they measure, they weigh the output, they give the right amount, they give the right price, and then farmers will also be happy about the price they are receiving after all these 4 to 5 months of hard work. Other points, other measures taken by the government we'll take in the next class. Also in the next class, we are going to see the video first. Um, we'll see what to do first. And okay, till then, just take care. Go through all these points which we have done today. Try to sensitize yourself with the topic which is going on. If there is any query, you can get back. Take care. God bless you.